5 years is a long time. Long enough to have meaningful change. The upgraded infrastructure around the country is testament to this. However, this is not the case for post-election violence victims whose lives remain unchanged for the lucky ones, and for the unlucky, it changes for the worse. They were thought of as lazy, just sitting by the roadside waiting for handouts. However, the crops behind me is proof enough that all they need is land for them to practice what they love, farming.
Unajua msembe anaonekana na kushika pesa na kuweka wapi? Sisi tupewe kama ni mashamba, tujirimie. Hata hii msaada atunge kwa tukihitaji kutoka kwao. Hawa ndio wametuma tuwe na njaa.
They could have been anyone walking in the streets prior to the events of 2007-2008. But now their homes have been reduced to tents that limit their privacy, as the small shelter hosts a whole family. A majority of Kenyans, far removed from the immediate effects of post-election violence, have dismissed their pleas for aid, perhaps thinking that PEV victims simply don't work hard enough to bring the change they desire. But PEV victims say they have tried to no avail, and they maintain that after their troubles, they have earned the right to complain.
Wale wakubwa wanakula kilo ngapi kwa mwezi? Sisi hatuhitaji starehe kukula nyama, kukula nini. Lakini watu angalia, ama kama wameshindwa na sisi watuhamishe nchi nyingine.
Ukashughulikiwe huko. Kuliko watu kama sisi tunateseka hapa na ugonjwa na njaa, sio mavazi, sio nini, tumeshoka.
Ni kama sisi tunachukuliwa ni watu wa hema. Sasa nasi tunaona kile kitu rahisi wataweza kutupea ni hema. Ndio tunawaitisha hema. Watupe na wamekataa nazo. Tufanye.
When it rains, the situation turns from desperate to life-threatening as diseases become a constant invisible roommate to them. The access of healthcare remains an unattainable luxury.
Nadhani umesikia kwa msichana wako pale hospitali. Amelala. Hakuna hata ndururu. Hata tukisema ni kuchanga, tunagojea hiyo chakula, tunashika ile kanusu gorogoro, unapeana ndiye tupate kuchangia nani mtu kama huyo.
When they have nothing to pay for medical services, they have to surrender important documents that set them apart as Kenyans so as to get that invaluable care that separates life from death. A version of modern-day slavery which seems to suggest that they are indeed lesser Kenyans.
Hapa iko watu vitambulisho zao zimekatalia rifaro. Hata saa hii akigonjeka sijui nini itaenda kushika rifaro. Juhana chochote hata kutibiwa hata tibiwa.
Around the IDP camp in Nyamombi, most of the children are under the age of 5 years, indicating that this is the only life they know and raising the alarm on the possibility of a population crisis that could occur if such communities continue living in these conditions.
Watoto kama hawa wasomi, mtoto kama hasomi, wewe uliadhirika. Tutajisimamisha na nini?
Still, they multiply, but who can blame them? There is little to do around the camp, especially with the planting season now over. They have been the source of cheap labor to those families living around.
Vibarua ni imekwisha sasa hapa. Sisi ni watu ya mikono ya hapa. Tutarudi tufanye nini? Tutakwisha.
The community living here at the Naka IDP camp is of the opinion that Operation Rudi Nyumbani failed terribly, or else they'll be well secured in their own homes.
Mimi naona serikali haituangalii na haina haja na sisi. Hata furaha ya serikali ni kama tukufe, tukwishe. Vile tumekaa hapa sio kama binadamu.
Those who got back their land are also not out of the woods yet, as they could lose their property all over again to an unlikely entity.
Wale walikopa loan, mahindi ilishomewa kwa store, na sasa AFC wanataka pesa yao na hatuna tutaitoa wapi.
Their situation raises issues of double standards owing to the fact that the government had written off loans for other farming communities such as coffee and sugar farmers, further frustrating peace efforts.
This is why I'm always saying the government, since independent, has developed one side of the country.
There can never be peace without there being justice is a phrase that has resonated amongst the victims since the chaos. Just last week, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution admitted failure, saying that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute perpetrators of violence.
We are acknowledging that we have suspects. We are also acknowledging that there was difficulty and insufficiency of investigations. We're acknowledging that the institutions that are supposed to deal with these matters were incapacitated in one way or another.
Such words would be very little compensation for Wesley Cheriot, whose brother's whereabouts are yet to be known. It turns out that the government has never put into consideration the lost persons who disappeared during the conflict.
Because those are not subject to an investigation, or they are not subject to suspects that are pending in courts.
The same casual approach is what one gets when he or she approaches the Ministry of Special Programs seeking answers. Efforts to get comment from the Minister Esther Murugi and her permanent secretary Andrew Mondo were fruitless, with the PS maintaining that they are in the process of purchasing land for the IDPs, a story that has become the cliché response for several years, seemingly rehearsed as the one-size-fits-all answer to quickly brush off those who may ask questions. A devil-may-care attitude, it appears.
Sometimes the government creates its own problem.
As the ministry continues to dilly-dally in addressing the problems these people face, they will continue persevering in the misery, the result of an election exercise they now say they will not participate in.
Kura zetu hatutawapea. Afai ikae mfuko ama tuchome.
I'm planning just to be at home and relax, even not doing anything over that period of time.
Amani ndio tunataka hapa Kenya.
In the meantime, they continue to do what they must to survive. Charity Waweru for News at 8.